So you have found the mother lode of election fraud.
Yeah, it tells you how to do everything.
Is it not clear that Hillary and the media are trying to sell the idea that there is an election fraud and that Trump's going to lose by a landslide when the polls and everything else show something opposite?
Let me put it this way. Of course, things have been very surprising of late. But if she is still viable in any way, whether or not she wins, she will win. We've found some new information, and I think it's the missing piece that we didn't have before. A gentleman by the name of Benny Smith out of Memphis, Tennessee, discovered what I would characterize as a master key, which essentially lets one person control with invisibly and with remarkable precision down to the precinct level and down to the type of voting, early voting and so forth, or whatever type they want, many different locations at once, multiple counties and multiple states. It has actually been in the system since it is put in the system in 2001, but it came into wide use in 2006. But it kind of took someone with a special set of skills to know what to look for. He didn't just do like most of the people did, where he says, well, let me just look at the program and see what I think. He is a guy who has some background in political forecasting and so forth, and he knew what would be needed. He kind of went, let me design what I think would be needed in order to succeed with widespread election fraud. And after he did that, he went, now let me see if the pieces that I know are necessary are built into the system. They should not be. And he was amazed when he found, after looking at the files, that the pieces were built in to commit very large-scale fraud using a feature that had been very little known before. Well, the thing that he felt was needed, which I didn't really understand until I met him and actually started putting together this video. He said the one thing you need, the key element, is you need to have the votes counted as fractions. You need the votes to be counted with decimal places, like you count money. You have to have not just if a vote is $1, you also have to have cents on the end of it. It's like 16,000.31, right? Why do you need – now, that will not show. It's hidden. But you need that because, and he said, there's one thing you don't know, you can't know before the election, and that's how many people will show up at each polling place in each precinct. So if you start doing things like I'm going to do every third vote or I'm going to add 100 votes here, you're not going to be very precise. Instead, you need to do what in finance they call an allocation. You say, whatever number of people show up, the guy is going to get X percent of those votes, whatever they are. Now, think about this. If you have 100 votes and you say my guy's going to get 43%, that's 43 votes. But if you have 99 people show up, what's going to happen? You're going to end up with 42 point something votes. So if your system is not capable of counting votes with decimals, it can't do that allocation. And what he did was he knew that that's how it would have to be done, and it would have to be very specific down to the precinct level. The databases can be configured any way you want, and they should be configured and used to be configured to count each vote as a whole number. It's called counting it as an integer. He went in and looked and said, let me see. It should count it as a whole integer. They had changed the setting in all of the voting machines in America. Now, this is the master computers. This is not the machines out in the precincts. This is the master computers that control all the voting machines.
Bev, this is incredible. And again, time and time again, you and your researchers tirelessly around the country have exposed the different ways they're doing it. And so I guess as a top fraud investigator, you're able to reverse engineer, okay, if we are going to steal it, how will we do it? Let's look for this. And then sure enough, you've caught them dialing in remotely.
It's amazing. Yeah. In other words, anybody can sit there and go, well, this looks like a vulnerability, theoretically. This is not a theory. This is real. This is something that was put into the system. They actually changed the setting. We can actually go back and figure out now that we know it, exactly the date that the setting was changed and that it migrated to all the other manufacturers in the U.S. So now, at this point, the setting is in there to be able to allocate votes by percent to in basically 99% of the votes in the U.S. And then he went on, and he basically proved it. He said, now that I know that's in there, I think I can allocate the votes. And it is stunning when you see the demo.
Let's be clear. Let's be clear. You're finding this in the voting software. You go in. It's this algorithm or system to be able to basically program it to show the outcome you want by shaving votes. I mean, in a lay person who's not a expert like you or a top computer programmer, what's happening?
So there's this one central computer, which at the end of the day, all the votes come to it. That's where you take it. You don't run around to 5,000 different things in precincts. You wait till the votes come to you, and then you have your way with them. And it's very, very precise. It's invisible. And there's absolutely, it doesn't matter whether the system's on the internet or not. None of the stuff that they say as a protection matters at all. You have your way with them. Then once you control the votes in whatever way you want, for whatever target you want, this can be done by one or a couple of people across whole jurisdictions. I actually didn't want to write the story unless I was absolutely sure. So not only did I see him do it, but I had him show me how it was done. And I took some vote databases, real vote databases that I have. One of them was the entire state of Alaska, the vote database from the 2004 election. I was able to change every precinct in the state of Alaska in 4 seconds.
Is it not clear that Hillary and the media are trying to sell the idea that there is an election fraud and that Trump's going to lose by a landslide when the polls and everything else show something opposite?
Let me put it this way. Of course, things have been very surprising of late. But if she is still viable in any way, whether or not she wins, she will win.
Wow. Please say that again.
Whether or not she wins, she will win. Now, she may be removed from office afterwards, and as you may recall, Richard Nixon was right in the middle. He had been 4 months into Watergate scandals and was reelected and removed from office later. But what's so disturbing about that is, there's actually some Republican elites who might prefer getting her in and removing her from office.
Oh, of course.
They can't control.
Of course, exactly. The whole power structure is against Trump. I mean, whether he's perfect or good or bad. I mean, if we claim we're against the corrupt power structure, then how could we not be for Trump? I mean, I'm sorry.
I'll say this as well. Whatever anyone thinks about the candidate, I will say that when he has brought to the front the issue of tampering with elections, it's one of the most important services that could have been done in the United States ever.
You're the expert. What headline do we put on this, Bev?
You're going to have to choose the headline.
I know. I just want to be totally accurate. A vote fraud expert, Bev Harris, exposes, the big enchilada, or, I mean...
it's I just call it the magic key. I mean, it really literally is. You picture a janitor going down the hall with the master key jingling at his side. He can open any door with it. There you go. We've basically got... So
you have found the mother lode of election fraud.
Yeah, it tells you how to do everything. And, you really can see it depicted, and it's just...
And I know you want to give this fellow credit, and we are in a moment. I want to get him on and you back on, please, please, please. I know I've been wanting you on for months. You've been quietly working on this. Briefly, though, George Soros, 16 states, his company, he's connected to others. He's been caught in a lot of stuff. What do you make of that?
Yeah, I have seen some indicators. Now, there's a company called Dominion. There has been some mistakes where people thought that the Smartmatic was being used. No, Smartmatic hasn't been used here. It's been used in Latin America and a bunch of other places. But he's connected, I think, it's kind of through a couple of hoops, but with a company called Dominion. And Dominion is one of the ones that bought the Premier Diebold stuff, and they have now admitted that they fractionalized the count.
Whoa.
Mm-hmm.
So a Soros-connected group?
Again, it's sort of connected through a couple of arm's lengths, but it's enough so that I wouldn't call. I think there is some connection. It's just it's like one of his guys. So I mean, there's always going to be a couple of buffers in between.
But Soros-connected group. It looks like maybe admitting to be involved in the whole fraction deal. Wow.
Oh, Oh, they are. They have. Yeah. They. One of their top guys said that they did it. There's a person. There's a group called Defend the Vote in Illinois, and the woman involved with that, Sharon Maroney, actually confronted Dominion and said, and they admitted that they do fractionalize the count. And she asked them why, and they said, for marketing purposes.
Wow, they hide it in plain view. Look, I'm not going to sit here and say, see, I told you so, that communist Chinese-style net censorship was coming to the web, because it's already here. It's being announced. The way you keep the internet open and free is you get involved more than ever. Go to Infowars.com/app. A new battleship in the fight. Infowars Live, available right now. We're looking for a crew to man it. You going to sit down and play games and be a trendy? Or are you going to be part of history? Don't sit by and let the internet and free speech be stolen from you. Take action.